Given Sonic's whole deal of speed, you'd think he'd be right at home with the racing game genre, but oddly, it didn't seem like that this was an avenue Sega was very interested in exploring up until the 2010s. There was Sonic R, but other than an absolutely banging soundtrack, it didn't really bring much to the table. I'd argue the first solid racing game in the Sonic series was 2006's Sonic Riders, released on the PlayStation 2, Gamecube, Xbox, and Windows. In this video I'll be covering each game in this mini-series by order of release. For just some spin-off, it really does seem like they put a good amount of effort into it. It starts off with a very anime-esque intro that looks fantastic, and all the CG cutscenes in my opinion still look really good to this day. Speaking of cutscenes, this racing game has a full-fledged plot and story mode, so I'll be getting into the premise before discussing more of how the game plays. Sonic and friends are wandering around Future City when they witness a fucking robbery, and Knuckles punches one of them off their goddamn hoverboard. Dude just gets fucking clapped, my god. Sonic tries to give chase on one of the thieves' boards, but they end up getting away. Later, Eggman announces that he's hosting a race. As opposed to just like a regular race. You're really using your 300 IQL, aren't you, buddy? Like, what do you mean a special race? Anyway, the entry fee is just one Chaos Emerald. Those mystical gems that Eggman are always after that hold incredible power. This seems rather fishy. Sonic, what do you think about all this? Gameplay-wise, Sonic Riders is more complex than it originally seems. Characters are placed within three categories: speed, power, and flying, similar to what they did in Sonic Heroes. They play similarly enough, however they all have a unique skill that gives them shortcuts according to their character type. Speed characters have access to grinding rails, flying characters can go off specific ramps and go through booster rings suspended in the air, and power characters can punch away obstacles without slowing down, granting them access to passageways only they can open up. Collecting certain amounts of rings ups a character's level, making their boost attack more intense and giving them a bigger air gauge, something you'll need to keep an eye on constantly, or else the hoverboard, or the extreme gear, will stop working and you'll have to race on foot until the gauge has air again. The air gauge can be filled by doing tricks off ramps, performing the character type specific ability, or getting air from item boxes, so a lot to keep track of during races. Back in the story, Knuckles asks a very reasonable question, and gets completely blown off. Oh, and also Amy's here. Whilst the in-game model cutscenes aren't the best, one thing I have to give huge praise for is how expressive the animations are. Like, characters are actually expressing genuine emotions. Tails gets angry when one of the Babylon Rogues calls his extreme gear shit. Like, it's really refreshing to see these characters express a wider range of emotions, more so than they do in the modern games anyway. The first three story races definitely feel like they've been made so the player can get to grips with the different character types, as they do feel like they excel in the respective tracks they're placed in, and this is a really good move in my opinion. By this point in the story, the game has properly introduced the three rival characters, the Babylon Rogues: Jet the Hawk, Wave the Swallow, and Storm the Albatross, and I don't mind them. I do really like that they seem to be some traits of Team Sonic taken to like the absolute extreme. Jet's cocky to a fault, Wave is the brains of the group but tends to be overbearing and arrogant, and while Storm is strong, he has actual brain rot. And whenever Jet talks, he's voiced by Jason Griffith, the voice of Sonic at the time, and I don't know how I feel about this performance. It's like intentionally really squawky and kind of grating, but at the same time, I find it kind of funny, and because of that, I kind of like it. The next race is put as the final round, and it's all on the line for the 7 Chaos Emeralds. Ooh, how exciting. And from the previous race, Green Cave onwards, this game has a kind of wild difficulty spike. Wild compared to the first three races anyway. Any more than the odd mistake and you have absolutely no chance of winning. Now I feel like this is fine for the last couple of races, but the spike is put way too early in my opinion and is too large given the ease of the starting races. But after a good few attempts, I won't lie, Sonic comes out as the victor, or rather he would have if Wave didn't plant a bomb under his board earlier in the story. And sorry, I know this is a Sonic racing game, it's not going to be the apex of storytelling, but please, I need to know, how did nobody spot a fucking bomb on his gear. Like, it was there for a good while, and it was implied that Tails did some, like, improvements, like mechanics on that board. Nobody looked at the bottom of the board at all. So, surprise, surprise, Eggman was using the Chaos Emeralds for his own ends to bring back the ancient ruins of Babylon with a final race against Jack to cap off the story, with Sonic delivering the inspirational quote. Beautiful, just life-changing. That's pretty much it for the hero's story, but beating it unlocks the Babylon story, so let's get into that. Their story begins before the main events of the game, setting up the group's dynamic, backstory, and connection to the ancient Babylonians and how they met Eggman and know of Sonic & Co. Generally, the Babylon story is a more difficult version of the hero's story, with similar stages that have a few aesthetic differences, but are more complex and present more obstacles, along with having to finish in first place from the get-go. I do have more complaints about the races in the story though, but first, I just have to show you guys this. For me, the first mission wasn't bad, the second one was a little bit more difficult, the third one was rather easy, but White Cave onwards are really tricky stages that you need to know inside out to come out on top, and in my opinion a lot of it is a bit much. The last three stages are particularly guilty of this, especially Sky Road and Dark Desert. Eggman Eclipse? Oh no! With the remaining missions out the way, the game moves on to the final boss, the Babylon Guardian, which is piss easy. You literally just boost into it 3 times and that's it. Considering how hard the last couple of stages were, I was expecting a bit more, but no. It doesn't help that the boss itself appears out of nowhere in the story, and the design is really silly. He looks like a big balloon, like if his arms were thinner, he'd look like one of those wacky inflatable tube guys. But with his genie lamp, I think, bumped into 3 times, he's beaten, and the ultimate ancient treasure of the Babylonians is uncovered by Eggman, who's fucking packing heat, my man dual-wielding, like it's Halo 2. It's a magic carpet, the first extreme gear. With all that out the way, the game ends on Sonic and friends and the rogues becoming friendly rivals, vowing to race again. Now, the story definitely isn't anything extraordinary, but I guess it does a job well enough. Now, the story does make up a good chunk of Ryder's playtime, but it does have more content to offer. There's a mission mode that tasks you with completing specific objectives as a particular character, and there's more characters to play that weren't featured in the story mode. The game has Shadow the Hedgehog, Rouge the Bat, Cream, Eggman, 2 Eggman robots, Ai from Super Monkey Ball, Ulala from Space Channel 5, Knights from, well, Knights, and Supersonic as extra characters. I do like there is more to work towards in this game, with not just characters but other vehicles such as bikes and hover boots, but for the purpose of this video I'm not going to be getting into these in detail. Just know that I think these, in particular the Sega guest characters, are dope. Whilst it definitely has its issues, I really like Sonic Riders overall. I think it does a good job of riding the line of being a simple enough game to pick up and play, with enough depth to really sink your teeth into, and the mastering of the mechanics to feel rewarding. Just under 2 years later, the sequel, Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, was released in 2008 for PlayStation 2 and Wii, so let's see how it compares to the original. Once again, the story is heavily featured in this game, so what better place to start than with that? In Midgar, this is actually just straight up Midgar, an amulet falls from the sky and causes a robot uprising. Sonic and Pals find another similar looking amulet. The robots don't like this little fashion disaster and go mental since now one of them has to go change. But it's not just a clunky piece of jewellery as it turns out. It can allow the user to control gravity, hence the name of the game. Now, from a graphical perspective, I think Zero Gravity is much more appealing than the original. Everything, it just pops a lot more. It's more colourful, and so it's a lot more enjoyable to look at. Although one really weird tidbit is in the intro cutscene and run-up, Knuckles' legs and body just kind of blend together and he just ends up looking like a head, a giant leg and shoes. Like, someone please tell me this isn't just me being a fucking weirdo, like just look. In any case, the gameplay is more important, so how is it? Sadly, I don't have a lot positive to say. It feels much more slippery and turning tight corners and switching angles quickly just doesn't feel as responsive as the original. Secondly, the trick system is getting completely overhauled. Instead of holding down the jump button for a higher jump and performing tricks manually, you just press A near the end of a ramp and it's all done for you. I don't get why they did this. It just makes the game more boring when you're in the air. Rail grinding is better than the original at least, but the way you get it is way worse in my opinion. Rather than everyone being on the same page through the race with their own skills like in the original, Zero Gravity features an upgrade system. Collecting a certain amount of rings first increases your top speed, then you get access to the character type's ability, then finally the air gauge is increased, and I hate this system. I feel like it's a situation where if you get off to a good start, you have first pickings for rings, meaning you'll get more upgrades quickly, resulting in the top staying at the top, and racers and behind inherently having a much harder time catching up, again which makes races more boring. If there's less chances you'll be challenged to win the race, then what's the point? Finally, and what I think is the most annoying change, drifting is more or less completely removed, replaced with a little gravity twist mechanic. I'm honestly not sure what you call it. For one, it makes the movement around the tracks feel way more restrictive, and it's just too similar to the new gravity boost mechanic. The latter I don't actually hate, but rather than the normal boost in the original, this is basically just a big win button. Back in the story, Sonic and friends sneak into Shinra HQ, along with some familiar faces.
Jet? Long time no see, Shorty. Wait!
We're here to settle the score from last time. Anytime, Babylon Rose.
For fuck's sake, Knuckles just ruined the naming scheme. SMH my damn head. Anyway, surprise surprise, Eggman's behind it all, wanting to use the amulet known as the Ark of the Cosmos power in order to build Eggman Land. With Team Sonic and the Rogues racing to the top of the tower, they work together to get all the artifacts back and stop Eggman, ending the hero's story. Like the original, Zero Gravity also has a story for the Babylon Rogues, once again taking place just before the main events of the game, finding a stone mural from what I think is their ancestors, and it's established they believe in making wishes on shooting stars for some reason. Like with the heroes, they also accidentally find out these amulets can control gravity, and Jet's first thoughts are, oh yeah, now I can just fucking beat Sonic in a race. Like, the man's obsessed. I think there's like a million other more useful ways you could use this power, Jet, like come on. Honestly, their story feels even more fillery than last time, with some funny XD hijinks with Storm and Amy in the middle. But you play as Amy to get away from Storm in the Babylon Zone story. Even though it would make way more sense to put this one in the hero story and the player to be Storm in this story. Whatever, it doesn't matter, let's be real. At least we find out how Eggman has the Ark of the Cosmos. He just went fucking Metal Gear Solid and just stole it right off Jet's desk. Why is Rouge the Thief if Eggman's clearly so much better at it? Costume swap and all, whoa mama. Cursed mental images aside, one thing Zero Gravity absolutely has over the original is the music. It's okay in Riders, it's nothing special but it gets the job done, but Zero Gravity's soundtrack I find to be much more memorable, with a few tracks specifically that just hit different. The main theme, Ungravity, is catchy as hell, both the lyrical version and the shortened instrumental version they use for the menus. but the track that really shows how much better the music is has to be Catch Me If You Can, the theme for the Babylon Rogues. In Riders, it's okay in short bursts, but I just personally don't enjoy listening to it for extended periods of time. The remixed version for Zero Gravity is leagues better in pretty much every way, in my opinion. The final boss, well, imagine my shock when Eggman's plans fuck up royally, making a black hole, I think? And to stop it, we have to defeat the Master Core robot inside, and to its credit, it's way better than the last boss in Sonic Riders. Like last time, you have to boost into its body, same concept, yeah, but it's pulled off much better this time around, having to use the environment to boost further and harm the boss. The only real complaint I have is on the last lap, the AI has a horrible case of rubber banding, and despite you all working together, it doesn't count as a hit unless it's Sonic directly attacking it first. If another character makes contact even seconds before, nope, you gotta do the lap again. After a good few bonks, peace is restored once again, ending the story of Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. Once again, there's extra content to be unlocked by doing side missions, but if I didn't do it for the original game, I'm sure as fuck not gonna do it now. Eggman, Cream, Rouge, Shadow, and Knights come back as returning extra characters, as well as new characters Silver, Blaze, Amigo from San Diego, and Billy from Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, and 2 robots joining them. However, rather than the kinda pudgy Sonic Heroes-esque Eggman robots from the original, Zero Gravity has 2 robots from the main story. Wait.
Where are those droid cars?
Come on, that's basically what they are.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are 2 of them.
Whilst it's not downright awful and far from the worst game in Sonic's library, Zero Gravity was just quite the step down from the original, sadly. Despite it selling more copies than the original, the former selling about 930,000 and the latter selling just over 1 million, nothing's been done with this side series since this release, which is such a shame. Don't get me wrong, the Sega All-Stars racing games and Team Sonic Racing are a blast to play, but I reckon a modern Riders game has so much potential. Wait, I named this video Trilogy. What I forgot to mention one? Hold on. Sonic Free Riders for the Xbox 360. For Xbox Connect?